Hey there folks, this is Rich Bird S from Christchurch, New Zealand, and this is a walkthrough of how to make a workflow, Power Automate workflow that will allow you to send summary emails to people when those people are in multi-select people columns. So we'll get a task list or a list of items per person in the multi-select column, per person in that column, not just one for all three of them, right? So they're all selected, they're in different columns, that same name may be in different columns, and so then that individual is going to get just the tasks that they have due in 7 days. So the data source for this is SharePoint. I have a list here with a column called task due date, and I've put those some in there as 7 days away and some that aren't, so we'll see that we shouldn't get anything about that one, and some that are also closed and some that are active. And then this is the column multi-person, and then you can see it's got different people in it. Whenever you're making one of these workflows and you're taking it from an existing list, do me a favor and just check your list settings, and always validate the name of your column. So to do that, go to list settings, click on the name of the column, and then look in the URL up the top. That will give you the actual OData name of the item. Okay, it's really important when you're doing that, because sometimes you inherit a list from somebody else and they've made changes, so they've renamed title to something else, or they've put spaces in initially and then they've hidden the spaces out, renamed the column, and then your OData filter won't work and you'll be all confused about why it's not working. So that's the main tip. If you find it's not working because you can't find things, then go and check the name of the column. Alright, so let's get started. We're just going to do this on a recurrence, and there's a few different ingredients in this workflow. You could try and use the new Power Automate workflow Copilot to make this, but it won't help you, not yet. It will do in the future, but not right now. Can't quite understand the multi-select people and tables of data rather than just single recurrence items at this point in time. So best to start from scratch. So we're just going to do a scheduled cloud flow, and we'll just call this summary. Woo. Multi-select people. Oof, sorry about that. See, when you're typing live, it's not quite so easy, right? Okay, so send summary multi-select, and we're not going to run it every minute, we're going to run it every day. When you do this, you obviously make that work for your time zone. I am in the New Zealand time zone, so what I need to do first of all is get my future time, and then convert it to my local time zone. So I'm going to just go into add an operation, so just pause and follow along as you're going to do this. So date, and we're going to get future time, and then we first will give us basically UTC of whatever period we select. We're going to go day, and we're going to go 7. Easy. And then to make it work in my time zone, I'm going to do another date column, convert time zone. We're going to convert this future time action. The source time will be in UTC, and we're going to push that into New Zealand time right down the bottom. Okay, and then I'm going to put it into the string for UTC as well, because SharePoint likes to have that kind of format for a date. So just also to check the columns, the due date columns we're running are just date only. We're not doing date and time, because then we've got to get specific on when times are due. So we're just doing date only. So we're doing that. And then so to make sure we've got this future time, and we strip that down to just the year dash month dash day, we're going to do a substring. And so a substring, if you haven't used that before, choose an operation, click text functions, select substring. The substring we're going to take is the convert time zone. Starting position is 0, and then the length is 10. So if I save this and play it, you're going to see the date that's going to pop into that, just so everyone knows what we're headed, right? So let's test it. Again, good practice, build up your blocks of your workflow, just play around till you basically get, you're getting the right values coming in. So then when you go to debug it, you're going to realize you're all good. So the substring for the date in 7 days time for me today is the 16th of July 2023. So that's all working as expected. All right, so we've got a date, so that's going to be the first part of the filter. Now we're going to want to get me the items from my SharePoint list with the right filter. So we're going to go new step, and we're going to do get items, SharePoint data source for this particular item, and we're going to find Power Platform site, and then the list is called MultiSelect people, maybe, or people, sorry, MultiSelect, there we go. All right, so then this would bring back everything, but what I want to do is go to my advanced option and put an OData filter in. So what I'm going to put in there for my filter is the name of the column. So in this case, my column is called task due date, is case sensitive, and then equals for EQ, and then in speech marks, I'm going to want to put my substring. So that's going to give me everything that's got a task due of today. But I also, in my list, I've got a status column, so I don't want to pull back column items that have already been closed. So I just go into task status, that's the name of my column, and that equals active. So if you're unsure about that, I've got in my list task due date and then task status. So that's a choice field, but that's all good for selecting just straight text off it. And then click on that, I can see I've got task status. There's my name of my column. So I'm all good for that. Okay. And then we can move on. All right, so the next thing we're going to do is, when we're going to pull in a lot of people, we're going to want to have an array of people to bring in, then we're going to want to filter that array. So we've got to do like a double hop on it. First of all, to get the items, and then to filter and just ring out the people till we just have individuals, and just show me the list of those individuals. So this way it gets a little bit more in depth. So to put that into an easier way to make this Power Automate workflow run, is we're just going to go initialize or init or variable type, whatever you want. You want to collect the variable item, you want to initialize a variable, and you want to initialize an array type of variable. So it'll start off with a Boolean. You want to have an array, just a group of things you can put into a collection, right? So let's call that var array emails, and let's just make, obviously I haven't renamed any of these at the minute, but we should be doing this as we go, right? So initialize a variable array emails, right? So as you go through, always good practice, because you don't know what get items is really going to be. So if you're ever struggling picking up someone else's Power Automate workflow, the other thing to do is to add a note, right? You can put comments in if you want, but notes are really good as well. So just, yeah, get filtered view of open task items, right? So then you can edit that as you go through. It just means when you expand the items, you can get maybe some help if you're co-authoring, working on things together in a collaborative environment. Okay, so we just initialized this array, and then we're going to load that up with some items. So next step, we're going to do a control. It's an apply to each control. Just select that, apply to each. So basically we're going to iterate through this get items. So there, you're going to select the value of the get item. So everything this get items action pulls back is going to go into this apply to each. And so for every item that we find, we're going to do something with it. Okay. And so for that, what we're going to do is we're going to jump in and we're going to append to array. So what's going to happen here is, the minute I select my multi-person, we're going to get a value back in. Oh no, that's worked out all right. Cool. And if I ever want to see what's coming back, I thought I was going to get another drop and a single apply to each side and apply to each. I may end up doing that. I might come back and do it. I'm just going to test this first of all. To testing, really easy for this. Put a compose in, and then just put in your variable. Let's just save this, test it, and just see. I just want to see what comes back in my array, just to validate that I've got this right. Cool. I thought that might happen. So what we're happening there is it doesn't really like what I've pulled back. So that's a great test, Rich, because it's bringing back the whole array of the person. So what I want to do is change this a little bit. So this is a deliberate error, obviously, from my part. So let's go back to apply to each. And what I'm going to put in another apply to each inside it. So I've got every item here, and then I want to apply to each multi-person that I find inside of each list item that I bring back, because the multi-select person column is also an array, right? So I'm going to go to each multi-person and then get that, right out, and I'm going to drag that down to that array. And then what I'm going to do here, to make it a bit easier to work with, because I've already got this multi-person in, I can go to the bottom of my dynamic content and I can say current item, but I'm just going to rename this just so it makes sense to everybody looking at this if you're fast forwarding it. Cool, and that should update that as well. Okay, let's check it. So then it's easier when you're looking at multiple things. If you give them a good name, then at least you can see the name you got. So for the current item, all right. So let's save that one, and then we'll test that. So no error generated. And what it's done basically is gone and grabbed everybody in this, and it's obviously got me a few times, right? So there's Benji's in there, I'm in there, if I go to the top, I'm in there again. So what I don't want to have happen is send multiple emails to me because my name's mentioned multiple times in the multi-select person column, right? So I want to filter back down, strip out, so I just have one of me in each of this, apply to each. Okay, so the next action we're going to do is we're going to use another one of the data operations activities, actions. I'll just put it in there, and we're going to be cool. It's a data operation. We do data, type that in, or you can type in select if you know what you're looking for. But this lilac color, I think it's lilac, you're going to do a select action in there. So select allows us to do kind of a build our own little filtered array of what we're bringing in. So I'm going to bring in my, let's rename this. All right. So now we already know the array is going to bring back everybody, which is great. And I'm going to give a column in my select statement, which I'm going to just call task email. Just need to have something distinct so it can know what it's looking for. And what I'm going to do here is I want to just get the email. Got to put a little bit of an expression in here to make this work properly. And so what we're going to have to type in is item, oops, open bracket, close bracket, question mark, and then it's square brackets, the name of the column that we're bringing back. So for a person field, we just want to get their emails, because we could have 2 John Smiths in the list of people, common name, right? But the email should be in your Office 365, part of your unique identity. So it should always be just, there's only one Rich at Brighter Days, there's only one Benji, there's no 2 Rich. If there were 2 people called Richard at Brighter Days, it might Rich 1, Rich 2, but then we're going to have distinct items, right? So we're going to select that. What you'll find when you save this is great. You can edit this again if you go into it. Once you've saved this a few times, it'll come back as a different looking type column and it won't be editable anymore. So you have to remember what you typed in and just hover over the top to see what you wrote in. Okay. All right. So then now we've selected just the emails of all the people from this array. We still need to filter that back down to individual single items of each of the emails that come back. And so another data operation activity we're going to use is called union. And that doesn't always show up like that. So let's go data operations. All right. Actually, that's I know why it hasn't shown up, because I want to put it in a compose statement. Sorry about that. We're going to make that, we need to put it as an expression. There's no ready to go union. Okay, let's call that union. Sorry about that, folks. And so this is another expression. You start typing union, make sure you got expression ticked. Sorry about that. Union tab, open that bracket up. And so what we're going to do is I want to just get the emails from the emails. Okay, so all we've got to remember here is the name of my action above it. Okay, so it's there's a space in our activity, so it's going to be an underscore in there, another single speech mark. Okay, you can see that correctly, but that's the first part of our union. So we're going to say go and get all of the select, and actually I've typed that wrong, I need to do body in front, sorry about that. Body, select email, close that bracket out, and then I've got to do another comma, and I'm going to do exactly the same thing again. So basically it's going to look up all of the items in that select email filter action, and then it's going to find just the emails, and it's going to basically then strip them out to have just individual emails for each time. Okay, just double check I've got that. If I hover over it again, I've got email. So there's a problem there for the people following along at home. You'll be able to spot the difference here, the wrong thing. I've got select underscore email, but the name of my activity is select underscore emails. So whilst it's in this mode, I can just jump in and type an S there and scroll across. Cool, there you go. And then make sure you click update. Doesn't save it until you click update. That's right, so that's in there. Okay. All right, so if I change this, let's see if what comes back in our union statement. So again, if you're sort of just following along, just trying to learn as you go, save it and then run it and then see what comes back in each of the actions. Great way to keep trying to figure out what you're doing. Make sure you're on the right track rather than write something out following me along on YouTube and then it's all just done and then it doesn't work and you're like, oh, why doesn't it work? And then because then you got to go back through and try and figure out where it doesn't work. Okay, so the union statement's in there, select's got it, and then so the compose should just give single individual emails of people. So that's the column task email we called in the select action, but we've got Rich, Benji, Liz, Sutter, right? So there's no more many people. So we've got in here, there's lots of us. Okay, and so this what this union statement's done is just strip it out, so there's individuals only. Okay. So put that back into edit mode. So it's a great time to stop and just check. Use your compose action to check what's going on. All right, so then what we're going to need to do is another data operation. I should have called this a data operation special. We are going to pass out our JSON names into a format that we can use easily in a task email activity. So to do that, another data operation, and if we just type in parse, that should bring us back what we want. There we go, parse JSON. All right, so from here, we're taking the outputs from our union. That one here. So compose union, so that. And then you might not have that information at the start. So what I'm gonna do is I'll probably paste this into the chat. Because I've already created this before. You can generate from a sample if you want to go back and get the emails. But all I'm doing here is my array, it's my items. I'll paste this in the chat so you can see it. Array items, task email, that's the name of the column we gave it, task email. And then it's a string type, and then it's just we can have required, basically that's going to pop in there anyway, right? So that's in there. Let's just give that distinct emails. Woof. All right. Okay, so that's in. So now we've got a single individual kind of per person or in one instance of each name coming back on our workflow. So then we've got to run that back through our activity through this workflow and go and then get items in the SharePoint list that we need to then check on. So it's a double hopper. There's probably way better ways to do this out there. This is the one that works for me for multi-select people. So by all means, use it, test it, play with it. But if you find a better way, go for it too. So we've got to drop in and apply to each. So for every person we've got in our distinct activity there, we go control, apply to each, and we're going to select the parse JSON distinct emails. So for every, oops, did I get the right one there? Because it's gone straight to body. Yeah, I'm going to just get rid of that because I don't want to do that. Sorry about that. I just clicked it too quick. What I want to have in here is everybody in the body. If you just grab that, first of all, it's just going to double hop it again. So I just want to go that because you already know that's going to be our individuals. And if you ever want to see what you're putting into these statements, sometimes I do this and apply to each. Rename that. Drop in a compose. So if you're ever troubleshooting this, you don't have to have it in all the time, but want to compose in through here. Because we parsed that JSON, it knows there's a task email, body, and item. I can say task email in here, and so then inside of that, that's kind of the step that we just did for that. But I'm not actually, I'm thinking that's not quite what I want to have happen. But anyway, let's just do a double check. Let's apply to each two. So I'm going to get rid of that. Just ignore this. It's me just doing some checking that I've got quite wrong. That's not how it's supposed to go. Let's just get rid of that. Great. All right. Okay, so for every person we found in here, add an action. Get items. So we're going to go back off to the list. You can see it's a while since I've made a video recording, which is a little bit off my game, but that's right. A few things in there that aren't quite right, but I've gone back and followed. So if you just delete what I just did, restart, and then you're all good. So rename that. Let's call it the filtered list. Same list we're going to go back to. People multi-select. And again, we're going to put a filter in on this one. But we already know the name of our person. So we can grab the name of who we want to have in here. Actually, I just figured out, if you're watching this action here is not quite correct because I've gone and got the compose union. I actually want to get the JSON item from there, not that. So I typed in body before, and it's that body, not that one. So let's just get that again, make sure we've got the right one in there. Hover over that. There we go. Make sure you've got that parse JSON, that. So then that's why my compose statement wasn't quite right. Let's just do that, double check it. We got it right. Okay. Compose that. All right. Cool. See, it's come through. It's not put into another apply to each. So that was a big tell where I realized something wasn't right. So I'm going to drag that under it. So I've got this compose email action in there, and then I can then do a filter against this particular item in my list here. All right. Sorry about that. Good catch. Got it. I might re-record this and do it again without any errors. But you can see, as you make stuff, you're gonna often bounce around and find the right item. So right at the beginning of this workflow, of this demo, we evaluated the name of the column in the people multi-select SharePoint list is called multi-person. Case sensitive. So we've got multi-person, but I want to get the email right because a multi-person column is an array, and I just want to get the email. So it's a / and then capital E, capital M, A, I, L. So that will allow us to then just get the email. So equals, and then I'm going to put in this output. So get me everything, whether the value of that is that particular person I've just found. And I'm also then going to do the same thing, task due status, or task due date, sorry. Task due date equals substring. Right date. Remember to have your little speech mark at the end of as well. And we also want to have task status equals. Cool. All right, so this will bring us back just a list of just people, where each individual will bring back any of the items where they're listed in that multi-select person column. So all this pre-work is to get this activity happening. You could probably hard write that up as a way better way to do it, just with a straight expression, but I'm looking at the low code method, and that allows us to do building blocks to make it real super easy. Now if you want to create, so this will get our items. If we ever want to do like a nice prettier table in an email, there's many ways to do that. Lots of items on YouTube showing you how to do that. So I'm just going to drop in a compose with some basic table styling. Let's call that rename compose CSS input and then in this space I can paste in any style I want to have. So if you're into CSS, then you'll be able to know what this means. So for a table, we're going to give it like a gray background, 75% width across, and then some other values around the table heading and the same. So basically just give it a little bit of style, change your colors to what you want to have in for your background color for your headers, make it look like what you want to have. But that's a super easy way to make a table. And then for this item, what I can also do is add another data operation called table, or create HTML table. And I actually want to drag this, into the apply to each, otherwise this is going to send a message to everybody. Common error that. So let's open up the recheck, drag that in there, and in this action. Otherwise, if I put down the bottom, everyone's going to get all the emails. So just a little catch there for everybody. Obviously did it on purpose, so everyone had it. Create HTML data operation, create HTML table. That's what we want to have in. We want to select the value from the get items filtered. Get items filtered. This is why it's important to have those names there making sense to you, so you can grab the right thing when you've got a bit of a bigger workflow. And then what I want to do now is actually use the advanced options. So I don't want to automatically create my columns. There's a lot of columns in the SharePoint list that I don't need to have comebacks, and I'm going to go with custom. And so here I can put in my title, task, and then description, let's see if I can write a string. Let's see if that'll allow that. Cool. So you have a space in there, that might be easier for you to have. And then we're just basically going to go with, when I click on the value, again, it should know what I'm putting in here, but if I hit a problem, so make sure you're in the get items filtered. Potentially, let's just see what happens when I do this, because I'm not sure this part will work for us as expected, but let's just see. Oh, no, that's okay. Cool. So you want to have item, open bracket, close bracket, question mark, title. That's going to bring us that title, which is great. And then new column. Let's get my task title. We don't need to put a status in because we already know they're open, right? Find my description. Oh, sorry, we'll type in something that makes more sense because we've got task details. Get items filtered. If you ever do a filter search, make sure you again get the right column, task details, and then the due date. Again, that's actually kept a bit of that, which is quite cool. Task D, which is interesting that it's not DU, but it's there. But that's what I want, task due date. You may want to filter that as well, put an expression on that date value if you want to add some extra color to it. And then inside the apply to each action, we're going to send an email as well. because I don't want to send messages to all my mates. I'm just going to put me in there. That's my test tenant's ID. So we've got that working as expected. Oh, actually, that's the one. Let's just do. That's what I want. I was going to have another email there, just another test email. Let's just put in some demo content. So basically, so then I can add in some flavor if I want. That's my summary of open task due on, and then we don't have to have it open, do we? We don't have a capitals, we can just do that. So if you want to drop in your table with your CSS, so to do that, what I'm going to put in first is that's my CSS input style there, and then right next to it, right after, my create HTML table. Okay, delete that out, save it. So what we should have now happen is go find the individual users, then go and get a list of the items related to that individual user, then send an email with a summary of those emails, summary of those items just to that person's email. You'd put in the email address of the person that you want to send the message to. So in here, what you'd be looking for, rather than if it's just your name, go to this dynamic content, and then what you're going to want to have in here is the like compose. It's another reason to put that, not that one. That email is useful if you want to use it again. Put that in there, and then it's called compose email. Put that in there, right? And that outputs compose underscore email would then send the email to that individual user. If you're going to do it multiple people, put a little semicolon in between each person, but I'm going to delete that because I don't want to spam my workmates on a Sunday. Save it, and then we'll test it, and then we'll open Outlook, or we'll see in here the messages that are sent. Right. Let that run. Shouldn't take too long. If you're working with massive lists, then it's going to take a while. But hopefully in your scenarios that you're building, you only want to find, because we're doing OData filters on we're going to find a small amount of people. It might take a while to go through the list items, but we're only sending a small subset of people's notifications per day. The task due in 7 days. So this has worked. It's run successfully. So we've gone through, that says 4 people that we found in the list. So we click on that. So there's Rich, Benji, Liz, Sutter, which is what we found before. And then for each of those, it's going to find the lists where the person's multi-person email equals that name of that person, the due date 2023 7/16, task due date active, make up an email, send an email. So we can see here there's our CSS syntax going in, and then in here is the rest of the table, which if you want to scroll along sideways you can, or you can just open Outlook, because I just did that, sent those all to myself in this mailbox, and so I can see here there's 4 emails, 1, 2, go back. Well, that's what the table looks like for that one individual. Close that message, turn that off. I am out of the office, but there's 4, right, for the 4 people. So there's Rich, Sutter, Liz, Benji, and each of them have different items. You might want to make some changes to your code there for your CSS to make sure that's a distinct width, or set a width, so that's all sorted, and then have a height working, so it's going to lay out all your task items, so it's going to push it across. But that's how you basically would have a list sent to individual users whose names are mentioned in a multi-person select people column, and send them a reminder of any items where their name's listed and they're due to complete a task. I hope that was helpful. It's been a while since I've made a video, so a little bit rusty, but I will put in the CSS input information and the JSON component as well for the schema. So that's been a chat for YouTube. So feel free to take it. Just make sure when you do take it that you're following along exactly as you are. So it's cool. You're calling it task email for your column when you're doing your composing and your union and your select. So making that task email, and then it should all work as expected. But yeah, get stuck, have any questions, comments, please reach out.